Most What's going on, guys? It's X and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a minute, but that's because I have been practicing for the now past Bushiroad Championship Series tournament in Tampa, Florida. It was probably my first time in Florida. It was actually a pretty fun time, and I will say that the event itself was pretty well run. However, there's a couple things I have to complain about, but if you've already watched the podcast, the Out of Pocket TZG podcast, which subscribe to the channel and watch, go listen to it. I did give my own thoughts about kind of like extra stuff that's not related to the tournament itself there. So if you want to go watch that, go watch that. Otherwise, we're gonna kind of talk about the tournament itself. So for both, I went there for Vanguard on both days, standard and premium. Standard day 1, premium day 2, and I feel like I learned a little bit more things about kind of just myself and how I handle tournaments a lot better. But we'll get that into the actual discussion of the actual decks themselves, which we'll get into right now. So let's go. So here we are. We're on Decklog. Oh, I'm covering the thing, but considering we're about to move this up anyway, you'll know exactly what's going on. So, standard, day 1, we had 7 rounds of Swiss into top 32. My record, unfortunately, was 4-3. I went X3, unfortunately, for a few reasons, but for the most part, I feel like all those losses were earned except for one, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So, this is my deck list. I went with Reziel because it is. I thought about do I want to go Reziel or Ava, so in the end I chose Reziel because I felt like Ava was too weak right now. So I said to go with Reziel this time. I was confident with my choice. I've been playing it nonstop pretty much before tournament, so I have a lot of reps with this deck, except for the fact that this wasn't the deck I was going to bring to the tournament. So the big issue is that the deck build I wanted to bring did not arrive in time, despite for me ordering 2 weeks ago. So I kind of had to make do with what I had. So I made this build like kind of last second to compensate, which I think still did well. Just I kind of did wish I had that other build, So let's talk about it. On that, we started our ride line. We obviously have our starter, Soul, our gray one, which is Ventesta. Another one of the issues with the deck was I was going to originally run the Alden gray one from DBT 13. I forget the name, but Ventesta also is just overall just a really good card, so I'm not really upset about it. Did come up a lot when it came to numbers. Grade 2 Ascensior is pretty much just a free revive, which is always nice to build more board, especially going early, and you have the combination of cards that you do. So, and then of course we have our grade 3 Faded One of Miracles Reziel. I'll say Faded King. Faded One of Miracles Reziel. He is obviously the cornerstone of the deck. His divine skill is very much like key, which is why I'm not running the king instead. I mean, I think this is kind of the gist of it. Like, I think having access to the I think besides him and Lemidrus, having access to the divine skill is much more of a actual. It's much more impactful than just having it in Lemidrus's divine skill, because you can live without Lemidrus's divine skill going first, right? It's usually when you're going second that a lot of that skill is needed. So that's kind of the thing. So we head on to the main deck, and you'll see that a lot of the deck is kind of weird. So obviously we run 4 of Faded King, very powerful, like main second grade 3 to finish off the games. I ran 1 Gabrilius, one because I feel like I didn't want to run extra grade 3s, because I'm already flooding on grade 3s already with having the extra 3 Faded One Miracles Reziel in my deck, so I didn't want to actually add another non-shield card in my deck, so I only ran one. I don't think it was that bad. Like, legitimately, it was like whatever. If I saw it, I saw it. If I didn't really. I don't think it was like the main game changer in any of my games, you know. So that's that. And you know, like again, you run the 3 more copies that you can have the king a lot more active. The biggest problem with this deck is that, when you have 8 grade 3s, that's technically supposed to be 9. That's not including like your 9th grade 3, which is in your right deck. It does feel like you kind of could potentially flood on just a bunch of no shield value cards. So your hand kind of is like bordering on being fake, which, you know, depending on who you are, that's a problem. So that's kind of my grade 3 lineup. Mostly fine. I think everything's pretty good there. We go on to the grade 2s. I run 3 Nibiris. Nibiris is pretty much like the best Reziel support card in the entire deck. Straight up plus 10k on a revive, so you call it on battle phase. It's 20k by itself, 30k on Persona Ride, 35k if you activated the King skill. And then just can Energy Blast 3, put in Soul to draw a card and check a top deck to see if your Divine skill possibly goes off in case you're in a tight spot, is also really good. Or, you know, you use it early, check for a trigger, and just kind of, you know, prep for a very powerful turn, you know. So next, I ran 3 Biscotti. I feel like I'm okay with running 3 because Biscotti's discard is actually is really important, really good to kind of conserve hand. Plus, in this deck, 3 is mostly because like you can kind of discard whatever. You can discard Nibiris, you can discard Biscotti, you can discard Kadwala, whatever. Like, you can discard most of your deck and you can probably just revive it out later, which is good. So the Persona Ride skill actually did come up a couple times, and it was helpful. So that's also a plus, you know. And I ran 2 Nobia. Some people are like, why are you running Nobia and not the generic from the Festival Booster? Well, for one, that costs $60. I'm not gonna run that. Secondly, I like Nobia. I always think she gets a lot of flack for kind of just being like very early, but I think she is still pretty good in like actually like building boards when in situations where you can't actually use your board, or you can't actually build it effectively without risk going overextending. So having Nobia as just a top 3 searcher to potentially call something, especially early, does really help. I know one turn I did Nobia into a Surgown, and it was, shoot, it felt like Christmas. So that's why I run 2. Plus having just an extra potential beater like Nibiris is also good. So there's that. Now we finally go on to Kadwala. Kadwala is mainly here to search for any of my grade 2s and my Faded Kings, because the deck really does need you to have your Persona Ride and Reziel Vita active as fast as possible. So maxing out on 4 Kadwalas, I think, is very imperative. Plus, if you whiff, you just draw a card anyway, so it's not really that bad. And because of Reziel, because of since you're on turn 2, right? Turn 2, you call Kadwala, you call Saragon, you just straight up like dig through your deck for pieces. Then on grade 3 ride, you revive Kadwala or Saragon, and basically just kind of continue to cycle out again, right? Really, really solid card. I did appreciate it a lot. I ran Param at 3. I kind of wanted to run 2, but again, I didn't. Cards that should have came in did not, so I stuck with 3. She's mainly here as another early game engine, where it's like, oh, if I have some extra counterblast, I can call her counterblast 1, call a card I was going to call anyway, draw a card, and just kind of build a board out. And just having a 13k rear guard that can grade 1 for like flexible like attack combos. I think allows a lot more, allows more flexibility in your attack combos, allows more like flexibility in board building essentially. Just so that's why I ran 3. I think she is also underrated, but depending on what deck you are running or how much money you're willing to spend, it very much kind of depends, right? So and lastly, before we get to dog, we go to Aerial Sage. Aerial Sage does come up because when you want to revive a certain card but you don't have it in your drop, use Aerial Sage to discard, gain 2k and a counter charge, which allows you to to be able to play the game a lot more effectively. And then you have that card drop, which allows you to revive with Reziel. So, example, if you've got, say, Gabrielle is stuck in hand, right? You don't want to like call over. What you can do is on swing Aerial Sage, and then you can able to call out the Gabrielles, right? And you can do that for pretty much anything, right? Discard Universe, call it out, right? But this card originally was like always like a negative because like you're discarding for 2k and a counter charge, but it's like it actually does come up and it is important, especially in a deck where most of your deck effectively pluses, so it's not really that big of a deal for that discard unless like you're discarding like a really like weird card. But again, like look at this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, like you have like 5 good discard targets so they call back off. And then we'll get to, of course, the dog, Saragon. I mean, quite literally, I think it's kind of like the awkward thing to say. If you're going to a tournament and you don't have Saragons, you're not going to do well. At least right now, I know the set 7 grade 1 is kind of like a replacement for Saragon. Obviously, because I don't think they want to just straight up kill Saragon while they have the Hound Razors available. So, killing Saragon is very important, right? Because, just top 2 search, constantly revivable and invisible in this deck, and just a good boy. So, obviously our end goal is then the 3 PGs, which then leads us to the triggers. I brought on my Bane Dream, Razor Brits out, just for good luck. 4 heals, obviously. I ran the blue over trigger, mostly because you can, right, it's like you hit it offensively, you gain effectively a 9th crit, and the ability to probably grab a PG from drop that you've already used and reuse it again. For fronts, 3 fronts, this is kind of awkward because what happened was, I told the story, but like basically, because another thing I ordered was 2 extra fronts to use in this deck. I didn't get them in time. They arrived like the day I left, and I had already left by that time. So I had to basically buy 2 SPs, which I still enjoy them, but it's still like damn. And our Regalis piece is Protection Twin Cast. Basically can be used twice the entire game instead of just once. Use it early or use it like at the same time, right? It allows you to be used again. And of course the 1 of Elementary Sanctitude. So yeah, that is the standard deck profile. For now, as for the matches, round 1 I went 2nd against Levidrus, and they proceeded, like, I'm just gonna give it like a TLDR of the matches. Round 1 went 2nd against Levidrus, and they pretty much like opened like best combo possible. So their turn 2 was basically just tri-laning with Squirrel, and I just couldn't do anything, right? They hit me with crit grade 1, and then grade 3 was like crit front, so I just kind of got punched out the game. Kind of punished for not guarding everything. That's what it is. That just happens. Sometimes it's just like you make a call and it goes bad, right? There's not even really much you can do. so that's also on me, but at the same time, like, that grade 2 tournament was so good, like, I'm not sure how much that would have hurt a lot, so that's just me kind of not making having that feeling of, oh, that probably is going to be a crit, I probably should guard here or something. That's on me, right? I'll fully admit that. Round 2, I went against Aqua Libra. I won that one. I went first. Aqua Libra is such a really interesting deck, man. It's like, dang, this deck is actually like legitimately like crazy, and it's like insanely cheap. Like, you don't have to add in mini. You don't have to have any generics. Most of your deck pretty much just does a lot. Like, it to me is like very much like a deck that reminds me of what I feel a Vanguard deck can be. That's a whole different conversation, but Aqua League was cool. Unfortunately, I don't remember my round 3 and my round 4. I know I won both of them. I think it's just because when I finally started writing notes down, I completely just lost it. No, my apologies to my opponents who probably watched this video. It just happened. Nope, actually, I forget round 3. Round 4. Nope. No, I forgot round 3. My bad. It faded out of my mind again. Round 5, I faced Varga. And it kind of really came down to, just simply put, it came down to a turn where it's like, if they literally just, if they hit a crit, I lost, and well, they hit a crit. So there's not much I really could do. Again, Varga is one of those decks where it's like, if they, is very much a feast or famine deck where it's like, if you hit your trigger, like, you're going to be in a good spot. If you don't, you don't. So, they hit the trigger at the right time, and that's just how it is, right? So I'm X2. I go into round 6. I'm going against the Rezio mirror, and the long and short of it is we do Rezio stuff, and then we go to time. Unfortunately, we do something stupid because we're both kind of like still in the game, and we try and play it out as quick as possible. Just determine a winner. They hit Divine Skill, so we both just kind of get timed out once the judge comes by. And my apologies to the judge, but I will say that to the judge who gave us the time call, I will say you probably the most, like, you are the one. I kind of put you in my mind as the bad luck judge. Like, no offense, I'm just saying, like, it's just weird that how you played into certain situations in this tournament. But that's not to say you particularly are like anything wrong. It's just funny. So that's it. Turn 6, and then round 7 was a bye. Not really a bye, it was more so a no-show. So I went 4-3. So that's kind of how the standard tournament went. Pretty much, once that double loss hit, it was over. So yeah, that's kind of how standard went. I will say, I feel really upset because I feel like not having that build the way I wanted to definitely mentally kind of didn't help with my feeling of, oh, I'm getting just utterly screwed off of, not feeling confident in my deck completely as if I had those cards. And also spending $130 on SP triggers didn't help either mentally. Like, I had fronts already in the deck. I had a whole different build in case I didn't get the cards in time, which, that's good. But overall, I say, like, it was still fun, right? It was still fun. It was still entertaining. I just kind of wish I did better. On to premium, though, we will now begin with the deck I built, and I went again. Like, this is my second BCS. This is my first BCS this year. Probably my only one, because I don't think I'm gonna go to Cali. So I took Victor. Like I took this deck like a year ago to Houston, and I don't know. I felt like it was kind of like okay-ish. But this time, this one was more inspired off of, one having the new card off, which is 30 Heart Puncher, and this one is more so based off of Deck Flair's top 8 list from the Lunar Open. He did and got top 8, so this is kind of what. So I took inspiration and some modifications, right? So I took the grade 3 V Victor. Pretty much is like your second best ride, right? Because it's like, your second best ride, because when you get Excel Marker, you get the ability to search for Extreme Battler, which, most of the deck is Extreme Battlers, and you just be able to call them out. So that's one thing. Zubat is pretty much there for like plays where you need to not have your Vanguard be the restander, or pretty much like where your Vanguard needs to not be the restander, or you feel like it's gonna be more of a grind game, which I never really came up against. Well, there's one time when Zubat was actually like really good, so there's that. As for the main ride, Extreme Battles Victor allows you access to the History Production Shrine, which is very important for this deck. You need those circles, right? That's why I say the V Victor is the second best ride, because you just really need that plus, right? You effectively +2 on both decks, right? On both the OG and the V version. Also has a stride skill that allows you to stand something gets +5k, allows for numbers, allows for another attack, allows for a lot of combos to go off. So grade 2, Gosachi. Gosachi was the GOAT this tournament for me. Straight up having a 7k, having a unit with resist in a field where like you can have a lot of cards and just try and pop your board is great. Gets 16k, allows for a Counterblast 1 restand, which pairs completely well with V Sazenza, because it just gets big, right? You open up enough resources, it just gets big, and your opponent is guarding for their life, right? And then last is Spiral Breaker. Spiral Breaker is really, really good. Allows you to search for, I say allows you to search for something, but it's kind of complicated. I never really used that second skill. I never needed to, personally. That first skill is just a Soul Blast restand. Is very, important, because if you're running low on Counterblast, having a Soul Blast restand is also nice. Originally, I ran 2 of Cool Hank, but I decided, because of just how people just kind of cut him, I decided to do it too, and it actually just went well. I think that discard is probably like the key reason. Otherwise, like, it's just kind of fortunate. Plus, your main grade 3 ride should be grade 2 should be Sazenza, because it also has a similar skill to Victor. So yeah, grade 1s, we run 1 of the VR shit for searching for our grade 3s. We ran 3 Gambargon, because it is a grade 1 that can restand something and can hit and can match numbers. So that's another thing. We ran 3 OG era shit, so that we can use the grade 3 to immediately hard search Victor. 2 Gunzin. Gunzin is funny because obviously the point is like he's supposed to be breasted to get 5 units resist. That means they're able to kind of go through and attack without having to, deal with anything. This was released like back in the day when they just gave every card in the game resist. And then I ran 2 Jirohawks. Jirohawk is also a booster that can restand the unit boosted, give it +2, and with Kazanza just makes the numbers big, right? Draws you a card too, so that's also important. And I ran 2 Mayaki. It didn't really come up. Like, it actually just didn't come up, but the one time it did, it was so satisfying. So like, I don't even disagree with it. And of course, we're talking about Sturdy Hammer Puncher. It is effectively your 5th heal for G guarding, and has the ability to kind of just like get 20k shield, or give your an ability to potentially just give your Vanguard just a bunch of defense, right? And of course, our starter, which is Run Ball, because he activates the effect of being Quick Shield and the Guardian Shield and drawing a card. So obviously you just run that, right? Elder Breath OT, quite effectively just one of the best OTs for this deck, because in a deck full of restanders, having double crit on everything pretty much spells GG's. We ran 4 Break Pass because the errata makes it good, and plus you can add into Soul to draw a card, gain plus 5k to your Vanguard, say in like a Universe Ace Buster turn, which we'll get to. Allows for more extension. We ran 3 Free Old Dragon, the heal guard that really does come up. It allows you to just kind of like defend a lot better, so you don't just take a bunch of damage. 4 of the strike crits, pretty much like you don't run a lot of grade 3s, so having strike crits is effective. 3 Twin Blader draws are really good in this deck, plus having the space in your grade 1 lineup also good. 1 Valnirch, simply just for counteracting soul charging. The updated route allows it to be just 10k, so it's like, yeah, it's cool. And 1 Bracing Angel Ladder came up immensely, as you'll see, but the main purpose is like to be effectively just straight up a draw card, soul charge 1, and give your Vanguard 5k, and your board is pretty much like protected for an entire like turn cycle, which is like you and your opponent's turn, so that's cool. And of course, Sanctitude, because we are in premium, every time your Vanguard attacks, you will have triple drive, so bam. On to the G Zone. Harmonix Messiah, pretty much only really here for the Guardian Shield ticket. I never really needed its other effects. We ran the Vic 10, 2 Vic 10s, because you need to gain the excels, and just a free restand and plus 5k. We ran Merciless. Money needs a flip target. I never really had to go. Like, here's the thing, most of this G Zone kind of was irrelevant except for 1 game, which I'll talk about. But it's like, it's always here in case you have like the resources to do so. So Merciless is here, Favorite Champ Victor is here, Winning Champ Victor is here, Fake Plasma is here because it's a restander, and if you go against like a deck you just really have a hard time fighting against, allows you to just kind of make plays. Trigger, I went into once, and it was the worst mistake in my entire life. So the real other 2 cards I really went into the Azivak, or I don't know how to pronounce it, and the Universe Ace Buster. Azivak is just a combos 1, staying your entire front row, and it gets big. And Universe Ace Buster just allows you to try and build more hand, and if you just go with a great, you just open a really good combo, you can just restand him and just try again. G guards pretty much kind of irrelevant for me this tournament, but they're still important, right? Just straight up, Junior can just regain resources. Dog and Titan allows you to just get 25k shield and just flip cards back up. Gundred's like, if you feel like you can't guard your turn effectively, you can just use it to countercharge your entire board back. And Stiff Knee for drawing cards. So, round 1. I went against Shiranui. Shiranui player, she unfortunately bricked everything. She didn't find Crest, she didn't find Shiranui till like 2nd grade 3 turn, and played crazily despite that, right? Had everything to defend, but just by the time it came out, it was just too late. They just lost too much advantage and just kind of fell down. I feel bad, but a win's a win. Round 2 went against another Shiranui. It's a whole thing. I also should have won this game, but I made a horrible mistake by just funnily trying to be like, oh man, you know what? Would it be cool if I won this game off my GB8? So I funneled into my GB8 in a way that just left me with nothing. So I hit GB8, whiff on triggers, and I just fall down, and it's like they had 5 cards in hand. I'm like, I can win this and I just think, if I just use any other stride, I'm pretty sure I just win. So I felt so stupid, and it hurt. Match 3 was against... Alright, sorry about that. So, round 3, I went against Highlander, and I went 2nd. For record, round 1 I went 2nd, and round 2 I went 1st. So, I went 2nd against Highlander. They had 3 damage to my first strike turn. And ended up with 8 cards in hand. So, yeah, you probably understand what probably proceeds to happen. They also hit no defensive, so they kind of just got punched down on their to turn, right? It's kind of hard when if you go first stride, you open every card you need, and they're on grade 2, so they can't G-guard. So they just die. They kind of just make an awkward misplay and then get punished for it, unfortunately. There's not really much to say about that one. Again, all my opponents were good. Like, everything's cool. They were all like nice. They're all enjoyable to talk to and conversate with and have matches. All good. So that's a plus, right? Game 4, Shiranui, I went 2nd and won. I feel like if I had nickel every time I want to get 2nd against a Crest deck, I'd have 2 nickels. Which is not, but the fact that I win both is crazy. Honestly, that was probably the best game of the entire tournament, personally. Just like, we actually just like had a good back and forth. They hit Crest, they hit History Collection. We just kind of had a great match. And I win. Bustard hit a crit, and it was just enough to kind of make it through. So, just kind of nice on that. And then I'm feeling good, right? So again, this deck, in my opinion, was running good. I'm feeling good. Again, if I hadn't messed up that second game, I'd probably been 4-0 by this point. Obviously, hindsight's 2020 and whatnot. Then we went to round 5. And this was the second best game of the day, but it ends in a way that made me so mad. I'll explain. So, I went against Regalia. My opponent was blind, so we had an extra 5-minute time. Because, the judge has to help, right? And lo and behold, it's the same judge that gave me the double loss last time. It's just funny. That's why I jokingly call him the bad luck judge in my head. Like, again, this is not his fault. It's just coincidence that this has all happened around him. So, I'm going against Regalia. I went first. I get my stride off. He guards it. He gets off a nervous stride where he runs 12 crit Regalia. went crazy. Like, just hit trigger, hit 2 triggers on the restand with the Norn, and then just kind of, I have enough to guard it. I'm feeling okay. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can guard this. If he hit one more trigger, I was probably cooked. Like, that's kind of the big thing, right? So that happened. I managed to block it, and now I've got enough to probably finish the game. And then I go into Universe Ace. I swing enough to get 5 attacks. To get 5 drives, because I didn't want to blow all my restands just to hit a bunch of to hit no triggers, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm restanding, swing, hit a crit, put it on a Gosachi, and this Gosachi has been kind of restood the entire turn, so it's reached like 61k with 2 critical. So I attack with it. He manages to guard it, and I attack with the Zazanza I have. And I have like one more Gosachi on the other side, which can still restand that 61k Gosachi, which then turns 66. And then we get time called. And unfortunately, the judge is there, right? We can't actually complete the match. Or like, have the attack go through. Because he has 1 card in hand. And it's like, I'm almost certain like that wouldn't have been enough to guard it. He would hit the trigger, I'd win, right? So it just kind of sucks, and it kind of pissed me off a bit, because I'm like, and this kind of thing is like, it kind of pissed me off. Internally I didn't really go crazy, but it's like I was just frustrated, because I literally in the attack step, he's in the guard step. Just let us finish the final attack. If he no guards it and hits a heal, then we could it's the time. This is a discussion about the time rules in Vanguard right now that just really pissed me off, and that's like, we can't even like complete a step anymore, right? At the very least, like back when the time rules were done, we had at least like, hey, all right, let's get it off, you're on 0, 1, 2, 3, like, or like we have like a next damage change or whatever. We had at least rules that at least decided an actual winner. But in the new time rules, games at very least in standard take a long time, because there's a lot more movement in the game now than there was before, right? Secondly, even then, it's like, this is still a major, right? This is different from like locals, where you just need to, you want to like make sure that the stores get in the out time, right? So it just feels really bad to not have a declared victor. So I got so mad. I was like, you know what? I will give them the win. I was like, whatever, I'm good. And then it just hit 3-2 drop. And just kind of ended the tournament. I was like, I felt like I was not in a mental state to continue the tournament, even though I still had a chance to make top cut. I was like, no, it's like that one hurt a lot more, because it was like, I personally felt like I got that match snatched away from me by a rule that like was changed, that feels like it was already bad. Like, it feels like it's already bad, and it's like, okay, I have justification now. The point is, like, my opponent still, right? My opponent didn't slow play. The only slow play came from the fact that they literally had to like hard look at their cards to double check real quick, and they were moving fast enough where it's like, it's not slow play, right? And having to also ask the judge about, okay, what card is this exactly? And having to go through the memory, like, it's not their fault, right? It's also not the judge's fault. They're literally just doing the rules, right? Like, he's right there. He has to kind of call it. He can't just be like, I gotta leave, like, because he's gotta support the literal blind man I'm fighting. There's nothing else to say. It's just that the rule itself sucks. I want it to be changed, at least to find a compromise in some way, at least be like, finish the turn. And at that point, if the match isn't over or something hasn't decided, yeah, call a game, right? Something like that. That isn't just throw away all the hard work of that match, right? So that's kind of how the tournament kind of went in the end. Overall, again, overall, still a good run tournament, right? We only had one repair, and it was like early on in standard, but like no one else had a repair, so pretty much well run. Tournament started on time. We went through, right? It's like nothing really went wrong. So overall, despite kind of how salty I personally got at the end, like, I still think the tournament itself was good. The event was fun. I enjoyed, like, you know, being with the homies, and I really did feel like I played probably the best Vanguard I played in a long time, especially in that premium tournament. So yeah, there's not much to say. Thank you all so much for watching. We're going to get back into making more content. I know this is also pretty long, so I appreciate you also just being here. So without further ado, if you like this content or you want to support the channel, please like, subscribe, comment, you know, just let me know what you want to see from the channel this upcoming year. I know we're about to head into March, but you know, better late than never, right? So with that being said, have a good day, y'all. Peace.